Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about our weekly forecast here from, this is going to be January 12th until January 19th. Now, before I get started with this video though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to share this video with your friends and family if they do like weather-related content as well. Let's get started with this video. Now, we're looking at last week's forecast, and we're going to go ahead and compare this to what actually happened, but go ahead and take a mental memory of what this shows right here, and then this is actually what ended up happening, and I think this one did exceptionally well. We did a really good job of figuring out where that warm air mass would be there in the east, and then also in the northwest, and it ended up being really accurate there, so I'm quite happy with the way last week's forecast went. Now, we're going to start talking about this week. Now, let's start talking about that precipitation forecast. Going to be very wet this week. Now, starting out with our first above average precipitation region, we have one up there for the northwestern United States. We're going to have frequent storms. I'll talk about that in our special note segment at the end of the video. But we're going to have frequent storms, including snow, there for the northwestern United States, and it's going to be a very wet week for you guys. Above average precipitation on paper up there for you guys, and we even have a second shade here, and it's going to be very noticeable here for Washington, Oregon, and Northern California that it was an above average precipitation week. Very wet this week. Like I said, frequent storms, including winter storms as well. Now, we're about to start talking about our second area of above average precipitation out there in the eastern United States, which is going to be very exciting as I'm expecting potentially multiple winter storms for the northeastern United States as well. Alright, and as you can see here, pretty much all of the eastern United States there is going to have above average precipitation, with the exception of that very far southeastern United States for Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. Everywhere else, though, we're going to at least have slightly above average precipitation. And yeah, in these first shades, it's basically going to be above average, but only on paper. Might not be too noticeable. Some of these areas it probably will, but maybe some areas it won't. We do have a second shade here, though, where it definitely will be noticeable here from portions of Alabama through northern Georgia, portions of the Smoky Mountains there through and into South Carolina, North Carolina, and portions of southern Virginia as well. Going to be a pretty wet week for you guys. We're going to have some pretty stormy conditions throughout the week, multiple times this week. Going to be a pretty wet week in these two moderately above average precipitation regions. Now, we have one little below average precipitation region, and this is actually it. So going to be a very wet week. Like I said, we only have a little bit of below average precipitation there, possibly for South Carolina, Georgia, and a little bit of Florida. Very small below average region there, and probably won't even be that noticeable anyway. So very wet week ahead for the United States as a whole. Now, we're about to start getting into our temperature forecast where things aren't going to look too different, but heading towards the end of the week, it might start to trend in a good direction for snow in the east. I'll talk more about that in our temperature forecast and then also our special note segment as well. Alright, so here looking at our above average region, this looks very familiar to what we've seen in the last few weeks for sure. Warm there for basically the entire eastern half of the country, with maybe the exception there of northern Maine. And this is going to be our slightly above average region, and really it might not be too noticeable in some regions, but some regions it's going to be a little bit warmer than normal compared to the rest of the areas, and there it might be a little bit more noticeable, but for the most part, typically you won't notice this too much. It's going to feel kind of close to average. Now, this is going to extend from the Great Lakes into portions of the New England regions of the United States, Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, Southeast, and then even the South Central United States as well. Let's add that second layer of above average temperatures though, and as you can see, that entire southeastern region of the United States there is also included in this moderately above average temperature region, and this is going to be an area where it's going to actually be really noticeable that it's quite the warm week there from Texas up through portions of the Corn Belt, down through the Mid-Atlantic and all of the southeastern United States as well. Going to be quite the warm week there, and this is actually going quite well along with our January forecast where we were calling for a southeast ridge. And so far throughout that we're almost halfway through January, and it looks really good, that January forecast. It's been really accurate so far. So we're going to have to see how that second half of January does. Now let's add that third shade of above average, and this is where it's getting very warm comparatively to normal from Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, northern Florida, and through the Carolinas, and even southern Virginia there, and the Smoky Mountains. We're going to be dealing with far above normal temperatures, and it's going to be quite warm for these areas this week from the 12th through the 19th. Now we're about to get into our below average temperature region, which is going to be for most of the northwestern United States, where we could be dealing with some major snowstorms through the week. Again, in our special note segment of the video, we'll talk more about that. Now, as you can see here, we have a pretty good area of below average temperatures as well. There for some of the north central United States actually as well. So Minnesota, the Dakotas, but then we see the Rockies, portions of the plains in Montana. Then we see portions of the Northwest like Oregon, Washington, and even the Southwest there for California, Nevada, portions of Utah. All going to be in that slightly below average temperature region. And this is an area where we're going to have very stormy conditions as well up there in the Northwest. So this could really help with the development of some pretty major snowstorms up there. Going to be an interesting week for you guys. And again, but in this first shade, we really won't be noticing it too much. It might feel pretty close to average, but some areas it might be a little colder than the rest. And we're going to add our second shade of blue here. You can see it's mostly for the very northern portion of this region. So northern portions of Washington down through the northern Rockies, most of Montana there, most of North Dakota, and a little bit of South Dakota as well, all in this medium shade of blue. And this is where it becomes a lot more noticeable, as I've stated before. Now let's look at our third shade here, which is where it's going to be far below normal temperatures. And this is going to be mostly just for the extreme northern regions of Idaho, Montana, and northwestern North Dakota there. Going to be far below normal temperatures. And there's going to be some really cold air brewing there that could, after this week, make its way into the central and eastern United States. I'll talk more about that in a future video, but things are looking kind of up for the future here. I'm starting to see an end to this very warm spell. Now, we're about to get into our special note segment of the video, which is going to be very exciting. I'm expecting some pretty stormy conditions for the Northwest and also multiple minor winter storms there for the north central and northeastern United States, and maybe even one very big one. We'll talk all about that in our special note segment of the video. All right, so as you can see, here's special note number 1, the 12th through the 13th here. We have a minor winter storm coming to an end. This is our ice storm / snowstorm, and it's only minor at this point. We had some blizzard conditions there for Maine earlier, but it is basically at the tail end of its life, and we're going to see that coming to an end here today through tomorrow, and that's going to be, like I said, just coming to an end. I'm already looking at radar right now, and it's already coming to an end, so that's going to be pretty much done after today and tomorrow. Let's get to special note number 2, though, and this is going to be the 12th through the 19th, so the entire week we're actually going to be dealing with storms, a few winter storms, I'd say 3, 4, maybe even 5 different systems there for the Northwest, and some of them extending down through the southern Rockies and California, but not all of them. The most consistent areas is going to be Idaho, Washington, and Oregon, where we will have all of these storms are going to be affecting those regions. Tons and tons of snow for this region, as a few winter storms are going to come through, most of them being major. So very exciting week for all of these regions in this bluish, purplish color here. Very, very excited to see what happens with all of those. Let's get to our third special note. We have a lot of special notes in this video. And this is going to be the 14th through the 15th here. And this is going to be from Minnesota and Iowa through the Great Lakes and then through into the northeastern United States. And this is going to be a minor winter storm here. It doesn't mean that all of these areas are going to see snow, but somewhere within this is going to get that winter storm. I think probably the northern half of this blue color, but it has the potential to come south or north, I would say. So somewhere in the middle of this is the most likely outcome. But, you know, areas as far south as Boston could even get some snow with this one, or Chicago or Detroit. But I really think most likely it'll be on the northern half of that. We have a special note number 4, and this one's going to be just after that previous one, 15th through the 6th, or 15th through the 17th on this one. This one's a little bit less certain because we have the European show in this system, but not the GFS. I was looking at that earlier. So we have a little bit of uncertainty with this one, but definitely a minor winter storm is possible from the 15th through the 17th, following a very similar track to that 14th through 15th system. Going to be coming from the Dakotas and Minnesota through the Great Lakes and then down through the New England and northeastern states. This one could dip down a little bit further south than that most previous one, so this one has a little bit more potential, but still a little less certainty with that one. And then last but not least, special note number 5. This is going to be from the 17th through the 19th, and something big could be brewing. And when I say big, I mean massive. We've seen signs of a major winter storm towards this upcoming weekend coming up. It's going to start maybe towards Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, head up into the Midwest, giving those areas some snow, the Great Lakes, the Corn Belt, and then in through the northeastern United States. Could be a little bit of wintry mix in there, messing things up, but it could be an all-snow system for some areas, and that would lead to a very, very major snow event. But still, this is at the very end of the week. We have a lot of uncertainty. We have a lot of things we need to work out with this one, but you could be expecting something big if you live in this white region towards this weekend, which I think is very exciting. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to share this with your friends and family, as I said before, and I'll see you guys in the next video.